need a high-end designer or a lot of money to get a luxe look. Be your own interior designer.
This is Affordable Interior Design, the podcast.
Here's your host, Betsy Helmuth.
Let's get to your questions. My first one comes from Valeria, who's writing all the way from Verona, Italy. Valeria writes, "Hi, Betsy. Congratulations on everything. New baby on the way, new podcast episodes, usual energy, and good vibes you send across the ocean all the way to Europe. I have just sold my house and bought a new one. Eventually, I'll be able to live closer to downtown and to go to work on foot, and I am very happy for that. The new house is quite small. It's a 1950s apartment, which is very different from the old house, which has much larger rooms. I have close to zero budget for this project, but I love DIY. I will pay a company for moving the kitchen and adapting it to the smaller space and open concept. I envision a black countertop, and are you ready for this? Pink salmon cabinets. I attach a palette that I'm leaning towards for my new space. 60% emerald green, 30% salmon pink, 10% cold yellow. I would love your take on that. Secondly, the chairs. My old house was shabby chic and turned into something like transitional. The chairs are painted white, but they are very, very casual, and I cannot replace them. Any ideas? The style I want for my new house is cozy mid-century modern. I will sand down the table and stain it according to the wood tones of the new house floor." All right, there's lots of questions here, Valeria, and I want to make sure not to miss any of them. But first, I'll kind of describe the images that you've sent me here. So, first picture is just a picture of your dining table, which is a square with those shaker style white chairs that you mentioned that were painted with the thrush seats. Then the second picture is a picture of your color palette, which does have that emerald green, that salmon pink. And then the only description I think was inaccurate is you said a cool or cold yellow. And this is more like a lemonade. I mean, it's pretty vibrant and electric. And while the other two tones I would say do feel a little bit muted, this feels pretty loud. I would not be calling this yellow cold. In terms of your current kitchen, it's got blue painted cabinets. I mean, let's see here. Is this your new kitchen? Okay. Yes, I think so. So anyway, it's currently got like this actually really beautiful color of sort of peacock blue cabinet doors with a white countertop, white upper cabinets, and a backsplash that looks to be this little type of circular tile. Not quite a penny tile because it's on like this sheet that has a dark background that does not appear to be grout. So anyway, it's a lot of look. Speaking of a lot of look, when I'm talking about 60-30-10, I'm talking about rooms with furniture, artwork, rugs, that kind of thing. I'm not necessarily talking about the architectural details of tile, cabinets, countertops, etc. I tend to do a lot more neutral with the architectural finishes like tile, countertops, cabinets, flooring, trim, etc. I tend to make that a lot more neutral and bring in the color with the furnishings. So when I'm designing a kitchen, I don't think about 60-30-10. If anything, the 60 and the 30 are going to be very neutral. And the 10%, whether it's the backsplash or the KitchenAid mixer that's going to live on the counter or something decorative, will be that pop of color, especially in an open kitchen that will relate to something in another room. What I'm trying to get at here, Valeria, is I think that your kitchen plan may be too exciting. Do I love the idea of salmon cabinets? Absolutely not. I think that it will look dated very quickly. I think it's already dated. I mean, it's kind of like a dirty flamingo based on the swatch that you sent me. And while I think that can work in some locations, like maybe Key West or the Caribbean, I'm just not sure you can pull it off in Italy. Um, it just feels like, especially with that pop of vibrant yellow, that this is going to be too loud and too exciting. I love the idea of the emerald being the cabinet color, except do I love it with a black countertop? Not really. So, when I would think about designing your kitchen, the first thing I would choose is that countertop because you're going to be more limited in selection based on how durable you want it to be, what material you want it to be made of. It's almost the most important piece in the kitchen, figuring out the dream countertop. From there, you want the cabinets to be a tone, ideally, in my opinion, that contrasts with the countertop. So if you have a white countertop, I would not do white cabinets because I hate white on white. If you go with an emerald cabinet, I don't know if I love a black countertop. It may feel much too dark. So I might do something mid-tone or light in color with that emerald, or maybe keep both the upper and lower cabinets white, and then you could do that dark countertop. But am I feeling a salmon colored cabinet? Not really. And even though you don't have many cabinets here, painting your kitchen cabinets is no joke. Whether you're hiring someone or whether you're doing it yourself, it involves, sanding. It involves taking them off their hinges. It involves being quite precise and quite careful so that dust and other particles don't fall in the paint. So, even though it may seem like a good way to cut corners or a good DIY project, you do have to be quite technical and it can be very time consuming. All that's to say that I want you to get it right. I don't want you to paint these dirty flamingo pink and then regret it in 3 years. So I would just tone things down, ask yourself where you can put more neutrals. And then, you mentioned these white chairs that you can't get rid of. I wonder why you can't get rid of them. I feel like I want to challenge that. Unless they're sentimental, at least in the States, these are not very expensive type chairs. So the investment would be minimal to change them out. But if that's not the way you want to go, I think these could be so fun in that peacock. And the other thing or not the peacock, I'm sorry, the flamingo. Now I've got too many birds going on. They might even be fun in that yellow. And then the other thing I'd recommend, and guys, this is something I see all the time when people have a square table and then they have a room that has walls, they put the table parallel to the walls, right? But the problem with that is when you pull out the chair, you're closer to the wall and likely going to hit it. So I like to shift it 45 degrees. So it's actually creating a diagonal with the wall. So that way, when you pull out your chair, you're on the diagonal instead. And I think that makes a lot of sense for this kitchen as well. So that way you're not pulling out and being so close to those cabinets. It gives you, because you're on the diagonal or the bias, a little more room to spread out. And lastly, I just want to say, well, maybe this isn't lastly, Valeria, I do get a little verbose, but you do not need to stain the table the same color as the floor. Architectural finishes do not have to match with the furniture finishes. In fact, if you're not going to put a rug under this, it may feel too matchy-matchy or a little oppressive to have them be the exact same. So all that is to say that maybe you consider doing a rug underneath, and I do love a circular rug under a square table, or you could do it the same as the floor, but just know that you're not obligated to do that, and I don't want to see too much of the same wood tone. Let's see, you asked one more question. Oh, no, I already covered that in terms of the chairs. So I think you're all set here, Valeria. I think you've got some really good advice, if I do say so myself. And, when working with kitchens, when working with bathrooms, go for timeless versus vibrant. Go for classic versus in your face. You can make in your face choices with artwork, accessories, countertop things, playful backsplashes. But for those core pieces, I really like to play it safe and go a little bit more neutral. And not that you're planning on selling this anytime soon, but it is much, much better for resale value to do just that. A big thank you to Aton and the Embassy who wrote our theme song. A shout out to Catherine Heller who owns the podcast shop and is our editor extraordinaire. We also want to thank Ginny Sunasan and her team at the Savvy Podcast Agency for their help with our social, our YouTube channel, and so much more. We also want to thank Uploft, which is our parent company who supports this podcast. And lastly, we owe a huge debt of gratitude to you. Thank you so much for tuning in and for all your support.